I've been doing this pretty much every fall because I associate Gilmore Girls with fall. In one day, I'm going to read through this entire challenge. So the first book we are going to start is Sense and Sensibility. And I will say there's one fun thing about this challenge, and that is that I am picking up books that I don't normally pick up. Now this one I definitely would have picked up eventually because I own all of Jane Austen's works in the Penguin edition classics. Like I got a whole box set of them. So I would have picked this one up eventually, but there's so many books on this reading challenge that are just not on my radar at all. So I like being able to explore different reading tastes, and I feel like Rory's reading taste is just very different than mine. So I'm gonna go start this book, and we'll kick off this video strong with an author that I'm already familiar with because I read Pride and Prejudice, and I think I read it in one of these videos. I read it I think last year, and I did really like that one, so I have high hopes for this. I just made it to chapter 10, and I can confidently say I don't know what's going on. I feel like I'm understanding everything in the moment, but I'm not understanding how everything connects or what the actual plot line of the story is supposed to be. You know what? Maybe I should look up a synopsis. Okay, this says Sense and Sensibility, published in 1811 as a novel by Jane Austen, follows the romantic lives of the Dashwood sisters, Eleanor and Marianne. After their father dies and leaves their family in financial ruin, the sisters must navigate the complex world of love and marriage. Austen's keen observations and wit illuminate the stark contrast between Eleanor's practicality and Marianne's romanticism, offering a timeless exploration of love, reputation, and societal norms in the Regency era. The novel explores themes of societal expectations, the tension between reason and emotion, and the importance of finding a balance between the two. Yeah, I was not getting that from the book so far, which is disappointing. Okay, I'm starting to get the characters confused, but I'm not sure if that's because I switched to the audiobook or if that's just because of the way it's written, since it is in Old English, and I struggle to read classics that are written in Old English, but I'm not sure. I'm literally about to force myself to go to sleep because I was just laying on the couch reading and I fell asleep while reading, and I was about to start editing, and then I was like, wait, Morgan, you literally just fell asleep on the couch, like go to bed. Anyways, I just made it to chapter 20 in this book, and I'm getting frustrated because I don't understand the point of any of this. All I'm discussing is that they're talking about getting married and money and employment and things like that. Oh, and upper middle class gossip, and I'm like, am I just missing the whole point of this book? Or is that like all this is? I'm just confused. And I'm kind of feeling dumb, but I also feel like at this point there's no plot. It's just like we're following their lives. And I'm not sure I'm vibing with that. And while I do normally like a character-focused book, I kind of don't care about the characters or what's going on. And normally, obviously, in a character-focused book, like you want to really like the characters or you're not really going to be interested in the story. And I honestly can see myself doing a little Google search of explain Sense and Sensibility when I'm done with this book. I feel like I might have said this the other day, but I can't remember. I would still consider myself newer to reading classics, especially when it comes to reading Old English. So I'm trying not to be too hard on this book, or really any classic that has Old English in it. But yeah, I'm just not loving it right now. Okay, I'm thinking maybe I should not have listened to this because I feel like it needs 110% of my focus, and it's not getting that when I'm listening to it. The problem is I want to read, but I need to work, and normally when I'm feeling that way, I'll just listen to the audiobook, and that's why I've been listening to the audiobook. So I don't know. I feel like it's just like not working. But at this point, I'm so far into the book that I'm like, is it even worth it to like stop? I don't know. I was right when I said I would have to look up what happened in this book after finishing it, because I did, but I didn't learn anything that I didn't already know. So I guess go me, but also I thought for sure that I was missing like the point of the story, or that I was just missing something. I think I said this earlier, but I still think that my main problem was that I just kept mixing up all of the characters, and this is such a character focused book that it's like really hard to get into the story when I keep mixing up the characters. But I also don't think that that is the book's fault. I think that it's just a mixture of the fact that I listened to a lot of the book, and also just I'm not used to Old English, and I definitely think this is a book that I would pick up again in the future when I'm more comfortable with Old English and I feel more in the mood to read this book, because I think I said at the beginning of the video, I have read other Jane Austen books. I read Pride and Prejudice and I did really like that one. So because I feel like it's not the book's fault, I'm going to rate this a 3-star, and hopefully one day I will circle back around and read this book again. And now let's talk about my next book. Now this next one is still a classic, but it's technically a reread for me, but I read it in middle school, which I actually just realized was literally 10 years ago. ago, so I don't remember anything that happens in this book, and that is To Kill a Mockingbird. I've been wanting to reread this book ever since Go Set a Watchman came out because I've been wanting to read this one and then read To Go Set a Watchman, even though they're not like related at all to my understanding. I mean, I haven't read To Go Set a Watchman, so I don't really know for sure. But like I said, since middle school was so long ago, I don't really remember what happened in this book, so I feel like it doesn't even really count as a reread. And I don't remember what I liked so much about this book when I read it the first time. I have no idea, but I'm gonna read this basically for the first time since I don't remember anything that happened. I just made it to page 74 of To Kill a Mockingbird, and I am very much enjoying it so far. It's written from the point of view of a young girl. I think she starts off in first grade in the beginning of the book, and now she's in second grade. And I definitely haven't read many books where the perspective is from someone that young. I also just reread The Inside Jacket, and for some reason I was really thinking that this book took place in the 1960s. It takes place in the 1930s, and I don't think the main plot point has been introduced yet. I mean, it talks about her dad being a lawyer, but on the inside jacket it says, "A lawyer's advice to his children as he defends the real Mockingbird of Harper Lee's classic novel, a black man charged with a white girl through the young eyes of Scout and Jem Finch. Harper Lee explores with rich humor and unswerving honesty the irrationality of adult attitudes towards race and class in the deep south of the 1930s. The conscience of a town steeped in prejudice, violence, and hypocrisy is pricked by the stamina and quiet heroism of one man's struggle for justice, but the weight of history will only tolerate so much." So I'm sure we're gonna get more information on that pretty soon. Also, side note, I'm drinking my morning coffee, and anytime I'm filming one of these videos and I'm drinking coffee, I just feel like I'm channeling my inner Gilmore Girl. A couple of days. I have now finished To Kill a Mockingbird, and I now remember why I liked this book so much. At one point in middle school, this was definitely my favorite book. I wouldn't say that's the case now, but I would say that this is definitely one of my favorite classics. I particularly really enjoyed the courtroom chapters, and I feel like I probably felt that same way when I first read this book because those are the only chapters in the entire book that felt vaguely familiar. I think as of right now, I'm going to give this book a 4-star, and I will let you know at the end of the video if that rating changes, but it feels like a very strong 4-star, so I doubt that that will change. If anything, it would just go up. I am also ready to start my next book, which is actually going to be Wicked, and I'm excited because I'm very familiar with the story of The Wizard of Oz, but I'm not really familiar at all with the story of Wicked, so I feel like I get to go in pretty blind with this book, which is sometimes fun to do. But I will say I think the only thing I really know about this book before going into it is that it's before The Wizard of Oz, and it focuses on what happens there, and I think it focuses mostly on Glinda and what's her name, the Wicked Witch of the West. And aren't they sisters, or did I make that up? I think they're sisters. I don't know. That's all I know going into this book, so we're gonna find out together. I'm not even through chapter 2 yet, and I am so confused. Like, this book is so odd, and I don't know if it's supposed to be this odd or if it's just because it was written way back in the day. I don't even know when this is written. I'm just making assumptions. I'm so confused. It's just odd, and I don't think I vibe with that. I just got back from the gym. That's why I look a little crazy. It's hard to tell, but I'm about 25% of the way through this book. I don't know if I ever mentioned my copy has 2 books in it. It has Wicked and Son of a Witch in it, so it's kind of hard to tell like how far I am into the book, but I'm not actually sure how I feel about this. I'm not loving it, I'm not hating it, but I feel like it's not capturing my attention right now. It just sucks because I really wanted to like this, but it is quite literally the story of Glinda and the Wicked Witch of the West and how they grew up. So it's very character driven, and I just don't think I care enough to love it. It also has so much politics in it, and I'm hoping that it ends up kind of being like, you know, when you read a new fantasy series and they kind of have to set up the whole world, I'm kind of hoping it'll be like that. So I am gonna stick it out and just kind of hope that things take a better turn for me later in the book. I've been trying to read this book for so long and I can't get into it, and I do not want to force myself to read this book because I know if I force myself to read this book, I'm just not gonna like it. I'm not gonna rate it highly if I'm literally forcing myself to read, and I never want to force myself to read. Like, that doesn't make sense. But I will admit, DNFing is always so hard for me, especially when it's a book book that I bought. Because when I go to the library, I'm like, I didn't buy it. I don't really care. But obviously, like, I spent money on this book and it's beautiful. So I wanted to love it and I wanted to just like have it on my shelf forever because it's stunning. But you know what? It's okay. I don't have to love it. Not all books are for everyone, okay? That is the beauty of books. And that is me trying to convince myself that it's okay to DNF this book. But I just couldn't get into the story. I found it quite boring at times. And I'm not saying like the book is boring. I'm just saying I couldn't get into it. I wasn't attached to the story, the characters. I wasn't really attached to anything. And I think that that was the problem that I had with this book. But I am actually really curious on what they ended up doing with the movie, how it's structured. And I'm curious to see what they added to the movie. Now I did get to like the 40-ish% mark. So I might end up watching the movie eventually, or I don't know, seeing the Broadway show. That would be cool. But I am going to DNF the book here, which sucks. But you know what? I feel like that's what this whole video is about. When I read like Rory Gilmore for a week, I'm basically stepping out of my reading comfort zone because me and her, we have opposite reading tastes. Although I will say I did really like To Kill a Mockingbird, but this one kind of felt like cheating because technically it was a reread, but it literally was 10 years since I read this book, so it felt like I was reading it for the first time. So I definitely really enjoyed this book. So if you're someone like me and you kind of struggle with Old English and you struggle with classics, I feel like you might like this, but also at the same time, I definitely don't think it's for everyone. And then I also read Sense and Sensibility in this video, which I did enjoy this one. It just wasn't my favorite. Again, it's the Old English and I couldn't really get myself into this story. And I do think I had kind of higher expectations because this was my second Jane Austen book and I did really like Pride and Prejudice, but this one just didn't hold up to Pride and Prejudice to me. Pride and Prejudice is still my favorite Jane Austen book that I've read to date, even though I've read 2 of them. So Pride and Prejudice ranks 1 out of 2. But I am excited to read more Jane Austen's works and we'll probably do that more in these reading like Rory Gilmore videos because I'm pretty sure almost all, if not all of Jane Austen's books are on the Rory Gilmore reading challenge. So that'll be exciting because I do own all of her books. But even though I am DNFing Wicked, I would say we still had a pretty successful reading week, especially considering these books are pretty out of my comfort zone. But thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.